Hello students, I am here with another video from the chapter Metals and Non-Metals of class 10th NCERT book. So before starting today's video, I would like to tell you all that till now we have discussed about the physical properties of metals and non-metals, chemical properties of metals and non-metals. Then we have discussed about the extraction of metals, and we came to know that various metals have various extraction techniques because there are a different position which is acquired by these metals in the reactivity series. So based upon this reactivity series, metals are of three types: metals of high reactivity, metals of low reactivity, and metals of the moderate reactivity. Now in today's video we will discuss about the extraction of the metals at the top of the activity series. Means we have discussed about the two two extraction techniques which is applied for the metals of low reactivity series, and the metals which are present with the moderate reactivity. Okay, now today we will discuss about the extraction of the metals which are present at the top of the reactivity series. So the metals which are present at the top of the reactivity series are like potassium, sodium, calcium, and aluminium. Okay, now which cannot be obtained from their ores by simple heating. And when the metals are present with moderately reactive, when they are moderately reactive or they are low reactive, so means they are least reactive or they are having moderately reactivity, then what will so the techniques were calcination and roasting. Now here we cannot heat the ores as they are highly reactive with oxygen. So if we are going to heat up these metals, these ores, then what will happen? So they are going to again catch fire and the complete ore will be lost. So there is some different technique which is involved in the metals which is present at the top of this reactivity series, like this calcium, potassium, then sodium and aluminium. Okay, so they cannot be obtained in the ores by simple heating, please remember. So now what we are going to do, so the next technique which is applied for these types of metals are the electrolytic reduction. So this is known as electrolytic reduction. Okay, now we cannot heat them even by using the reducing agents also. They are obtained only by one process called electrolytic reduction. Now what is this electrolytic reduction or electrolytic reduction? This is done in its molten chloride forms. Okay, now what is this molten chloride forms? Means these ores which are present, they are reactive, they are combined with the chlorine, and now with this chloride ores, these molten chlorides, these are heated up and they are just converted in the molten form, and then an electrolytic reduction is being done. Now what is this electrolytic reduction? Let's see. So for example, what is this electrolytic reduction? Reduction means to reduce something, and electrolytic means with the help of electricity. Okay, with the help of electric current. So what we are going to do, we are going to pass electric current through these sodium chloride. Okay, molten sodium chloride. We have taken the sodium from these many metals. Okay, so we are using this molten sodium chloride in the vessel, in the electrolytic vessel. Now what we are going to do, sodium metal is deposited. Now once the current is being formed, now how is this setup being done? So we are putting the two electrodes. One is the negative electrode, that is cathode, and the positive electrode is called anode. Now these two electrodes are present, they are joined with the battery, and once this switch is closed, then what will happen? Electricity is going to flow, and you know that metal chlorides are conductive in nature, so they are going to conduct electricity from this vessel. As a result, what will happen? The negative and the positive ions from the sodium chloride, it is going to move, it is going to break because of the heating, because of the electricity which is being passed or with the help of this battery. This is going to break the positive and the negative ions from this ionic chloride. Okay, from this ionic compound. Now what will happen? This sodium is, as it is positively charged, it is going to be attracted towards this negative electrode, and this chlorine ions, which are negative in nature, as they are negative in nature, they will be attracted towards this positive electrodes. So this chlorine is will be formed in the form of bubbles. We can see in the form of bubbles inside this container, inside this vessel. So this is going to be formed, this is going to be very helpful in this electrolytic reduction. This is how electrolytic reduction is being done, and as a result of this electrolytic reduction, chlorine gas will be released from this side, and we will see that the sodium metal is deposited on this electrode, and then we can take out this metal and we can use it wherever we require. So the pure amount of sodium, for pure metal of sodium, is obtained because of this electrolytic reduction. So this is also a kind of reduction, because the sodium and chlorine are being converted back in the form of ions, and then they are being deposited in the form of metals on one of the electrodes. Now you should understand that what is the meaning of the word electrode and electrolyte. So electrodes are the metallic plates which is going to allow the conduction of electricity in this metallic vessel. Okay, and then this is known as electrolytic chamber also, and these are known as electrolyte. And electrolyte are the solutions which is going to allow the electricity to be conducted. So distilled water cannot be used as electrolyte. We can use salt solutions because they are conducting, because they already contains free ions. So these electrolytes means these are the liquids which will allow the electricity to flow very easily. So we are using this sodium chloride in the form of molten form, and this molten form is going to be acting as electrolyte only, because of which the electrodes are going to be deposited with sodium and chlorine ions. So this is how the sodium metal is being obtained with the help of this electrolytic refining. So this is known as electrolytic refining. Now similarly, we can say do with the help with this potassium chloride, then aluminium chloride and calcium chloride also in the same manner, and we will obtain all the metals on the negative electrode. As the metals are the positive electropositive in nature, they contain positive charge over it, and that is why they will be deposited on the negative electrodes, means cathode. So on the cathode side we are going to get the pure metal, and which will be extracted. Fine, and chlorine gas will be released, which is also a very good byproduct, and it is also useful in various components, in various types of chemicals, for example for making fertilizers, okay, for making bleaching powder. So it has many industrial purposes, it has many industrial uses. Now next thing is that how we are going to do this refining of these metals. So these metals are removed, we are going to remove the impurities from the metals. Okay, so a pure metal is formed, and this is known as refining. Most common method of this refining of metal is the electrolytic refining that we discussed just now. So here in this condition, the metals which are of high reactivity, they are obtained on the cathode. Okay, and it is because they are very reactive, and since the metals which are obtained after which have moderate reactivity or which have low reactivity, they are also obtained, but they are still not in a very clean form. So clean metals are somewhere it is obtained where a pure metal is obtained, but in the cases where pure metal is not obtained, we are going to do electrolytic refining, because of which most of the metals are getting refined. Okay, it is going to be in its pure form. In this metal, a block of impure metal is placed in the form and to made anode. Okay, positive electrode is made with the help of this impure metal, and a thin sheet of pure metal is made on the cathode, because we will see that metals are going to be deposited. Next, the electrolytic salt is also added, which is to be purified. The electrolyte is a salt solution of a metal which is to be purified. Okay, so we make salt solution and we pour it in the form of electrolyte, and that is only to be cleaned. So impure metal is as anode, and pure metal, a thin sheet of pure metal, as cathode. Okay, so here in the place of anode we are going to put the impure metal, and in the place of cathode we are going to put a thin sheet of pure metal. Okay, so and this electrolyte will be the salt solution which is to be cleaned, which is to be pured. Now the same process will be repeated. The electricity will be conducted inside this container, and we will see that the electrodes are going to be deposited with the positive and the negative ions. So this is the diagram which is related with the refining of copper. How is this copper being refined? So in the electrolytic refining of copper, Again, copper is a metal. So what we are going to do, a block of impure copper is made is made as anode. Okay, so anode means it is this copper, impure copper is made as anode. Okay, then next cathode is the negative terminal. So this pure metal, a thin sheet of copper is used, which is pure in nature, so it is used as cathode. Okay, this is negatively charged. Now what it is being done, now once this pure metal and impure metal is used, it is put in the electrolytic chamber. Now we are going to add copper sulfate solution. Copper sulfate solution is being added. Now what we are going to do, again the electricity is going to be passed with the help of this battery. Okay, so this battery is being put here as a supplying of electric current. Now since this electric current is passed through this electrolyte, pure copper is formed from anode. So we are going to get pure copper from anode. Why we are going to get pure copper from anode? Because all the impurities will be settled down at the bottom of the anode terminal, or the bottom of this electrode, that will be known as anode mud, and we will be only left with the pure copper at the anode. Okay, now from the salt solution also this copper is going to be deposited again, and from the impure copper, this impurities will be settled down in the form of anode mud. So what is this anode mud? Anode mud is the impurities which settles down at the bottom of this anode terminal with an anode electrode once the electric current is passed while refining the copper metal or any other metal. But please remember that the metals which are to be refined are taken in the form of their electrolyte. Okay, this is also a metal which a solution which is going to conduct electricity. Fine. So this is how the electrolytic refining is being done with the help of the electrolytic chambers, electrolytic setup. Okay, so this is the experimental setup which is showing electrolytic refining. I hope you all have understood this also, and similarly we are going to repeat these same steps with other metals which are to be refined. Okay, now next is the part which is left is corrosion. Now what is this word corrosion? We have also studied this word corrosion in the first chapter. Okay, in the very first chapter, where we have studied about the chemical reactions and its equations. So here chemical reaction is also taking place in these metals and non-metals. And why we are reading this corrosion? See, corrosion means it is the damaging, it is the removal of the uppermost layer of the metals. Now how is this layer of the metal going to be corroded, or how it is being removed? It is removed with the action of air and water. With the action of air and water means moisture, or we could simply say that if the air is moistened, or okay, if it is moistened, then also the same conditions will be obtained of corrosion. Now what is this corrosion actually? So corrosion is a damage which is caused in the metals. Why we are studying here? Now you have understood, because we are reading about the metals and non-metals, and we should know each and every point about metals and non-metals. So we have discussed about the physical properties, where metals were sonorous and metals were malleable, metals were ductile. Similarly here also, and we have also read about various chemical properties of these metals. Now one thing is left. If metals are highly reactive, then they are going to react with oxygen, they are going to react with water, and these two are the enemies of metals. Okay, because they are highly reactive with these metals, and it is going to corrode away the surface. It is going to damage the surface which is present on the metal. Now it is going to corrode, and it is going to form oxide, layer of oxide over it, oxide or hydroxide. Sometimes this is very common in the form of in the irons. Okay, you have seen that iron objects are kept when it is kept in the moist air, or when it is kept in outside environment. It is going to react with oxygen, it is going to react with water, and it is going to form one layer of oxide over it, and it is going to corrode away the surface. It is going to damage the uppermost layer of the metal, and this layer by layer the metal is being removed. Fine. So corrosion is corrosion is the damage which is caused by the metals, due to which the reaction of the metals with oxygen moisture and carbon dioxide takes place, because carbon dioxide also contains oxygen in it. So sometimes carbon dioxide also sometimes carbon dioxide is also very reactive with these metals. Okay, next time and some metals are there which, because of which no reactions taking place with the help of this oxygen and water, moisture, it is going to react with sulfide of the air, sulfur of the air. So air is a mixture of gases, so each and every gas is responsible for the is responsible for the formation of this corrosion over the metals. So metals are going to be damaged because of this corrosion with the presence of oxygen and moisture. Now in the case of iron, it is known as rusting. Okay, now what is this rusting? We have already discussed. Again I am discussing here. So formation of brown layer over the rust, in the form of rust over iron. Okay, even it is formed in the form of green colored on the surface of this copper. Okay, over copper, this is the copper carbonate, where this green colored coating is formed. Here it is known as corrosion. And sometimes black coating is formed in the case of silver. This is because silver sulfide, and silver, you know that it is where it is present in the reactivity series. It is present at the lowest part of the reactivity series, where this is very least reactive metals. So these fall under the category of least reactive metals, where silver, gold and platinum is there. So what will happen? So black coating of the silver sulfide over silver is formed. Fine. So silver sulfide means it is where the silver is present, it is going to react with sulfur of the air, sulfur dioxide, it may be sulfur hydrogen sulfide or any other gas which contains sulfur in it. So in the case of this silver sulfide is formed, and that is black in color, and that is why you see that the articles which are made from silver, they are being tarnished. Okay, so they are being tarnished. So tarnishing or green color or the rust formation, all these are the formation of rust. All these occurs because of the corrosion, and these are the different ways, these are the different types of corrosion where it is taking place in iron. It is known as rusting. So this is the another name, this is the special name which is given for the iron. Okay, in the case of copper, it is green color. So remember the colors also, and remember the compounds. So in the case of iron, it is iron oxide, Fe2O3. okay, it is Fe2O3. okay, this is the rust. So ferric oxide is formed or iron oxide is formed. And in the case of this green coating which is taking place on copper, which is basic copper carbonate over copper. Okay, so copper carbonate is formed, CuCO3 is formed on the surface of the copper, and it is formed as a black coating on the silver sulfide over silver. Okay, so tarnishing is done. The silver objects are being tarnished. So this silver objects are being tarnished. Okay, so remember the colors also in the case of corrosion. Now we will show that the moisture and air both are necessary in the case of rusting. Okay, so in the case of rusting, how we are going to prove that? We are going to prove with the help of this small experiment which is taken from your NCERT book, where we will take 3 test tubes. We are going to take 3 test tubes where 1, 2 and 3 will be labeling of it. Now what we are going to do, we are going to put some iron nails in each of them. So it is, the iron nails are made up of iron, and you know that it is going to absorb moisture, it is going to absorb water from, it is going to absorb oxygen from air from the atmosphere, and it is going to be corroded. Now in the first test tube, what we are going to do, in the first test tube we are going to add some calcium, anhydrous calcium chloride. Now what is this anhydrous? Anhydrous means it is already dried, it is not having any kind of moisture in it. It is a type of a crystal which is known as calcium chloride. Okay, so this calcium chloride is already anhydrous, it does not contain the water of crystallization, it is already dried. Now it has a capacity to absorb moisture. Okay, so in test tube 1 we will add some calcium chloride in the first test tube, and then what we are going to do, we are going to put this iron nail over it, or we have already put this iron nail inside this test tube. We will just add this calcium chloride to absorb water. So what is the condition? When already some air is present, and air contains moisture. So we'll close. Now in the second test tube we will put the boiling water with no oxygen. Okay, boiling water is put which is having no oxygen. In the second we will pour some boiled distilled water which does not contain any any oxygen in it, and then we have removed oxygen by boiling. Fine. Now what we are going to do, we will put some oil over it. So oil will form a layer over this water, because oil floats on water, so it is going to float on this water also. So what will happen after some time? So it is being boiled, it is being added to it. Now oil is being put, and we will and in the third container we are going to put water and we'll just close it. So we will leave this, we'll put cork over these 3 test tubes. Now what we are going to do, we are going to leave this test tube for a long time, for say 2 or 3 days, or even you could put for some hours also. You can see after putting this for 2 or 3 hours also, even 4-5 hours, you can get the result. But if it is highly reactive, now if you are going to leave this for few days, so leave it for few days, 2 or 3 days, then what we are going to see, and note the changes which are taking place inside these iron nails, which are present in the test tube number 1, 2 and 3. So in the first test tube, what was used? Calcium chloride was used and the iron nail is used. So we found that there is no rusting taking place in the first test tube, whereas in the second test tube also there was no rusting. Why? Because air was blocked because of the presence of the water over it. Oil over it, over the water. Now in the last test tube we will see the change in this iron nail, where we saw a rusty iron nail is there. Now this experiment proved that both the conditions are required. Water is required, means moisture is required, and air is required for rusting. Okay, for rusting purpose these 2 things are necessary. So here 2 conditions we have seen. Now this copper chloride, calcium chloride which was used in this first test tube was going to absorb the extra moisture which is present in the first test tube. So there was no moisture, there was no air, so it has absorbed inside the it has absorbed all the moisture from the air. So air was moisture free, so it is not only the air, only air was present, so dry air is not going to cause any kind of rusting on this iron nail. Similarly, when water is being used, so it was boiled because it was having no oxygen in it. Now there was no presence of air. Okay, so water was present, but it was not having oxygen, so only water is not allowing the rusting to take place. Now in the third condition, where water was also present and moisture was also present inside the air, so means moisture is also present and air is also present, so both the things equally are important for the reaction to be occurred, to be feasible. So these 2 conditions are necessary, where air and water, air and moisture both are required. Okay, so this is all about the experiment where we have shown that air and moisture both are necessary for rusting in the iron. Okay, I hope you all have understood. Okay, fine. Now in the next slide we will see how we are going to prevent corrosion. So it is very easy, as you have seen. If air does not contain moisture, means somehow you are removing the moisture, or somehow you are not allowing the air to enter inside that inside that iron object, so it is not going to be corroded. So there are simple methods for prevention of these prevention of these corrosion on the metals. So first one is by applying oil or grease. Okay, it is very easy. Again, if you are applying oil over the surface, no entry of air will take place and no entry of moisture will also take place. Only if moisture is also present inside the iron, then also it is not going to react, because it requires oxygen also for the reaction. Fine. Now by applying paint also, we are cutting off the supply of oxygen. Similarly, one next way of prevention of corrosion is by galvanization. Now what is this galvanization? Galvanization is a coating of the iron metal with the help of any other metal, that is zinc and tin. Okay, it is being coated with the help of zinc and tin, where it is going to cut the supply of oxygen and moisture both. Now next, by tinning, it is again a type of galvanization where we use tin. Again, next is by electroplating means it is going to coat the less reactive metals like chromium over it. And by alloying means by making an alloy. For example, stainless steel utensils are used in the kitchen. They are not going to lose their shine, even they are not going to get rusted, since they are made up of iron only from inside, but they are being coated, they are being alloyed. Okay, so alloys are being used for many purpose where it is not going to get rusted. So rusting causes damage to the iron object, so we can prevent rusting by these all steps. Okay, so we can apply grease, we can apply paint, we can galvanize, we can tinning, we can do tinning, and then we can do electroplating. Fine. Electroplating is also done with the help of electrolysis, okay, where current is passed and the iron objects or any other object which are prone to rusting, they are being electroplated with the help of less reactive metal like chromium. Okay, so this is what is the reactivity, this is what is how we are going to prevent the corrosion in the iron and the copper and the silver objects. Okay, so this was all about the chapter of metals and non-metals. Now we are going to discuss okay, last part is left, this what is this alloy. So we, in the last topic we have discussed about the alloying means we are going to prevent corrosion. Now what is this alloy? Alloy is a homogeneous mixture of metals and other metals and non-metals. Okay, it could be metal or it could be non-metal. For example, steel is an alloy of iron and carbon, so in definite proportion is going to be utilized. So metals are being used, and metals or non-metals both could be combined to form alloy. So steel is an alloy where iron and carbon is used. Stainless steel, again it is an alloy where of iron, carbon, cobalt and nickel. Okay, brass is an alloy which is used which is a mixture of copper and zinc. Bronze is again a alloy of copper and tin. Okay, solder, again it is an alloy. This has a very important application where in the process of soldering. Okay, solder alloy is an alloy of lead and tin which is used for welding the electrical wires together. Okay, so we are going to take two wires where electrical wires are used. So these electrical wires are joined with one another with the help of this solder alloy where lead and tin is there. This lead and tin is used. Okay, so this is the alloy of one alloy of mercury is also there. This is known as amalgam. If metals, if one of the metal is in an alloy is mercury, if we are going to use iron with mercury or carbon with mercury or any other metal or non-metal, suppose we are using this mercury, so if whenever in an alloy one metal is mercury and other one is it could be anyone, but if mercury is present as in the alloy, then it is known as amalgam. Okay, please remember this word. What is amalgam? Amalgam is an alloy where one of the metal in the alloy is mercury. Okay, so sodium amalgam could be there, potassium amalgam is there, so we could use these amalgams in the form of alloys in various purposes. Okay, so this was about alloys. Now we are going to discuss the recap of this chapter. So that's all was the things which are to be discussed in this chapter. Next we will discuss about the things we have studied till now. So what we have learned in this chapter is the elements can be classified as metals and non-metals. Yes, elements are the pure form where we will classify these elements in the two forms, that is metals and non-metals. So metals are, they have certain properties of having lustrous, they are malleable, they are ductile, they are good conductors of heat and electricity, and they are solid at room temperature except mercury. So please remember this exceptional cases in this chapter. Okay, metals and non-metals both, so exceptions are there, so, and remember the questions are formed from the exceptional cases only. Okay, now metals can be positive ions, metals can form positive ions by losing electrons to form to non-metals. Okay, losing electrons to non-metals. Next is that metals combine with oxygen to form basic oxide. Okay, so we have seen the basic oxides are formed because of the combination of metals with oxygen. So these oxides which will be formed will be basic in nature. It is going to turn red litmus to blue in color. Okay, so aluminum oxide and zinc oxide show properties of both acids as well as bases, so they are known as the amphoteric oxide. So we have learned this word amphoteric oxide here, where the metals are some metals show both the basic characteristics as well as the acidic characteristics. Fine. So this is a new word, amphoteric oxide, please remember this. Next is the different metals have different reactivities with water and dilute acids. So, okay, so acids, whenever the metals are reacted with acid, they are going to form the hydroxides and they are going to form hydrogen gas sometimes. Okay, next is the list of common metals are arranged according to the it is formed because of it is being arranged in order to decrease the reactivity, which is known as reactivity series. Okay, so reactivity series is seen when these metals are arranged in the form of their reactivities. Okay, so metals above hydrogen in the reactivity series, they can displace hydrogen from dilute acids. So these metals over hydrogen in the reactivity series, they are going to be highly reactive, and below hydrogen it is the less reactive. Okay, they are going to displace hydrogen from their salt metals which are present above a salt solution, which are present just above this hydrogen. Okay, so we have discussed many things about this reactivity series. Now metals which are below reactivity series, they are not going to displace hydrogen. Why? They are because they are very less reactive. Now more reactive metal displaces less reactive metal from its salt solution. Fine. Next, metals, they are going to occur as free elements in the form of their compounds. Okay, so metals which occur in the nature as free elements, for example chlorine is a non, okay, it is a non-metal. If we talk about a metal like zinc is formed, zinc is present, or this copper, gold and silver, these are the least reactive metals. They occur in the free elements. Okay, so they are not, or they sometimes they are also formed in the form of their ores, they are also formed in the form of their compounds. So we require to extract these metals from their ores. So extraction and refining of the ore is under a process, it is done under a process called metallurgy. So what is this metallurgy? Metallurgy is the extraction of metals from their ores, and then refining is done. Fine, so this is studied under the metallurgy branch of metallurgy. So please remember this word, this is again a new word. Okay, so amphoteric oxides and metallurgy, we have done this, read about these two words. Okay, new words. Next is the alloy is a homogeneous mixture of two or more metals, where a metal could be a metal or a non-metal. It could be two or more metals, or it could be metal or non-metal, as we have seen in the case of bronze, we have seen in the case of stainless steel, we have seen in the case of the steel also. Next is the some of the surface of the metals like iron, they get corroded when they are exposed to the moist air. Okay, so some surface of the metal like iron, they are corroded. So this phenomenon is known as the corrosion. Okay, non-metals have properties which is opposite to the metals. We have discussed this also, that they are neither malleable nor ductile, they are bad conductors except graphite. So please remember these exceptional cases. Okay, so next is the non-metals are negatively charged, they are formed from negatively charged ions by gaining electrons when reacting with metals. Okay, so non-metals form oxides which are either acidic or neutral. Now next is the non-metal that do not displace hydrogen from dilute acids, they react with hydrogen to form hydrides. So remember, some of the metals, some of the non-metals, they are not going to displace hydrogen, they are going to form hydrides. And non-metals, they could be acidic, neutral, or they could be either acidic or neutral, because metals are forming basic oxides. Fine, so this was all about the chapter of metal and non-metal, and we have studied about the various properties of metals and non-metals in this chapter. Even extraction also we have studied. So with this, your chapter is complete. Now I will meet you all in the next video with the next chapter to be discussed. That's all for today's video, children. Thank you for watching this video.